I now call to order the regular scheduled meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Notice to the public of this meeting, the time, the date, the place, and the agenda was given by publishing a legal notice on February 4th, 2019 in the Aiken Standard. Contiguous property owners and signs were posted on and about February 6, 2019. On February 22nd, we sent notice of this meeting to the city webpage, to the city clerk for posting on the Finance and Administration Building Notice Board and the Municipal Building Notice Board at least 24 hours before this meeting. Agenda sheets were mailed or emailed to interested parties. Now, as a reminder, it is unlawful for any person giving testimony to this board knowingly providing false information. Now, that's according to Section 22-9 of the Aiken Municipal Code. Each infraction is a separate offense with a penalty of up to 30 days in jail and or a fine of $1,092.50. Any person that wishes to receive copies of today's proceedings, you may either contact the planning department by telephone, or you may sign up on the sign-up sheet just beyond the double door. When addressing the board, please occupy the podium in front of us, and please state your name and your address. To the board, you have received copies of the January 22nd, 2019 regular meeting minutes. Are there any corrections or additions?
Mr. Chairman, I ask that we approve the minutes of January 22nd.
I'll second that.
Second. It's been properly moved and second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion show by raise of the right hand. Those opposed, same sign. Bud, you were absent.
I'm abstaining.
Bud
of my
abstaining.
absence.
He was absent. Thank you. Old business, circulation of the final orders.
And we have no final orders because last meeting's action was remanded back to staff.
Thank you. That was old business. We moved directly into new business. I call your attention to application 19-93008. That's a petition by the City of Aiken requesting a variance, and that's for to the signing ordinance limiting the number of freestanding signs. That's on a lot, and that's in order to permit a second sign. The property is located at 841 Edgefield Avenue. To the city, has this been properly posted?
The one note is that the original notice did have a typographical error, which we corrected immediately following, so that people who received notice on this received two subsequent notices probably within a day or so of each other. But,
Were there any inquiries that you wish to share with the board?
no inquiry.
Thank you. Do you have a presentation for us?
We do. So this is the site of the newly constructed and almost finished Eustis Park Senior and Youth Center. The landscaping was being installed the day I saw, so the finishing touches are being placed on that, including the signage. It is currently zoned LP, which limits the size and number of signs and particularly the number of signs, because in any zone district pursuant to section 447B1 of the ordinance says that not more than one freestanding sign shall be permitted per lot, except where the lot fronts two major arterials as determined by the planning director. And as we said in the following paragraph in your staff report, an arterial is defined as having greater than 5,000 vehicle trips per day. We didn't have particular specific vehicle counts along Morgan Street or in the vicinity of the project, but just as comparison, Vaucluse Road, which is generally considered a higher trafficked area, doesn't meet that threshold in the same area. So we're assuming that neither of those would meet the arterial standard, and therefore it'd be by right would be able to have one sign. One kind of quirk to this, we provided you an air photo, but it is of the previous building. A new air photo has not been flown, so I wanted to make that known. What is pertinent to that, and it can be seen in some of the you can kind of see it in the diagram, but it may be better so in some of the photos presented, is that the former site had two entrance drives. Typically for government, institutional, religious use, you would be allowed one sign per entrance to a location, and we have that kind of described here. It's on the second page of section 448A. The city opted to close one of the drives for a couple reasons. One, generally for the safety of circulation pulling out and in, and to kind of to not disrupt, to minimize disruption to the surrounding neighborhood. As people were coming and going, it'd be easier to do the one entrance drive. So the one entrance is located to the far west. It's actually, I guess if you're going west on, sorry, backing up here. If you're going west on Edgefield, it would be after you pass the facility and almost to Eustis Park, as the park itself. So the entrance drive is very far down. The city wanted the ability to have both a sign there, a small monument sign there, as well as having one on the corner of Morgan and Edgefield, and that one would be, it would be an electronic message board, which would be permitted by right as a type of sign for a government or institutional use, and of a size that would be generally allowed if it were the only freestanding sign on the property. And it's so it's less than 25 square feet, or right at about 25 square feet. Just for comparison, the one that was permitted at Odell Weeks Community Center was closer to 50 feet, 46 point something feet roughly. So it'd be you know, a little over half that size, but kind of more of a residential scale, I guess I would say. And that's kind of defined by the residential side of the sign code. Other than that, the representative from the city, Joy Lester, our capital project sales tax manager, who's been the project manager on the Eustis Park Senior and Youth Center construction, is here and could answer any questions, probably better than I could, about kind of the specific layout of the property.
But basically, for this meeting, we're going to consider Edgefield and Morgan as high-volume.
Non-arterial streets.
Right.
Right.
And the signs proposed with a message board, electronic?
Correct.
Thank you.
But just,
The sign, sorry, the sign by the entrance, the monument, which would be kind of, I believe, a brick-style monument by the entrance to the facility, would not be an electronic message center. It would just be a standard identification sign.
Any other questions from the board to the city?
Yes.
Nancy?
I don't understand, I used to work in that building that used to be there. Don't understand where exactly. It would be on Morgan Street?
We kind of have a, see here, so in our zone map here where we have the little arrow subject property, it would essentially be right at the corner of Edgefield and Morgan. And here you kind of have this is the photo here. This was a Google Earth photo, but this is looking down Edgefield. So this photo is taken at the corner of Edgefield and Morgan. And so it'd be roughly at the location that you see there. The grade has changed a little bit with the development of the property, but you get the basic idea.
Okay, and it is actually going to look like that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Has there been consideration to the amount that sign is an obstruction to sight?
Yeah, it would be up on the actual placement of it. The zoning ordinance has a sight distance triangle, what we call it. It gives, based on traffic volumes, gives a distance that it has to be set back. So you basically draw a triangle, and it has to be back of the long leg of that triangle, and that's to ensure visibility.
Okay.
Any further questions from the board to the city?
I don't know how to ask this question, but, you know, there are houses right across the street there. How illuminated would it be as far as, you know, somebody in their house having lights kind of blinking or?
One of the, so it can't blink, flash, pulsate, move.
gonna-
So it cannot do those sorts of things. Our sign code doesn't allow electronic reader board to do that. Also, electronic reader boards all have to come with a photo cell that dims the light comparable based on what ambient light is in the area. So it's supposed to automatically adjust if it's cloudy or dark. In addition,
But if it's dark, it would become brighter or lighter?
No, it becomes darker as well.
Okay.
So, it's supposed to, as it gets into nighttime hours, it's supposed to dim relative to that. And it's measured at a distance with from, you know, a certain distance, but it's a standard identified in our code. Additionally, staff has placed in there that they'd be willing to place restrictions on it, that it would actually shut off during certain nighttime hours, if the board would feel that would be appropriate as well.
All right, well, looking at that, you see like it's a picture inside of there?
Right.
That's where the words would be?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so the top part of the sign, going back to this, where the photo, essentially the photo is there, that would be where you could replace it with text. That would change. The top part that says Aiken Senior and Youth Center and has the logo, that is static, and then the address and.
That illuminated the top part?
I would refer to Ms. Lester on that. I'm not sure if that was, it is at the Virginia Acres Park sign, but I don't know if this one was spec'd out to be
Well,
illuminated.
my only concern is how bright it might be for the residents across the street.
Right.
Okay.
But, Mr. Bland, have you had any complaints from the neighbors at all?
We have not gotten any inquiries on this.
Okay.
Do you know the hours of operation of the youth and senior center?
I do not.
Okay.
Any further questions from the board to the city? Thank you. Mr. Lester? Good evening.
I'm Joy Lester. I am the Capital Project Sales Tax Administrator for the city, and I have worked on this project for the past 3 years. Any questions that you may have, I'll be willing to answer. But we would appreciate your consideration of this sign. The city, especially the Parks, Rec, and Tourism Division, who will be administering this building after construction is complete, will provide programming for senior and youth at the center. The neighborhood has been very involved with trying to get this project off the ground and ready for opening. And we're just excited to have a new community center that will serve not only this city, but also surrounding county neighbors as well.
There were two questions Mr. Bland referred to you. One is on the hours of operation of the center as well as the timing for the lighting on the reader board.
The hours for the center will be, I believe, from 8 to 6. We have a grant for this project, and so we have to provide 6 hours of programming for our seniors that will be served at the center every day. And so in order to facilitate those programming needs, we will start at 8 o'clock. And in the afternoon, we hope to have our youth come in. So so that the seniors can mentor the youth and vice versa. And so we'll have that open until 6 is normally the plan. And as far as the lighting at night, I mean, we plan to turn the sign off probably around 9. That way that gives some consideration to the neighborhood and the residents there.
Judy?
Will there be any evening hours where the facilities are rented out or something like that?
Yes, this facility can be rented. There is a banquet hall in there that currently, if it's open all the way, can seat 296 people. But it also can be subdivided into 3 separate parcels that you could rent individually or, like I said, all together. There's also a 50-person classroom type room, as well as a 100-seat classroom that could also be rented. So, mainly I think they're planning to rent on the weekends, but I think that will be based on demand for usage.
Okay, now, if it is rented in the evening hours, will the sign be on later?
No.
Okay, still 9 o'clock, okay.
Other questions from the board?
Joy, there's a, passed it on the way in today from the interstate, there's a sign at Generations Park. Will this sign be similar to that one?
It'll be about half the size of that.
Half the size?
Yes.
Okay.
So the sign for Eustis will be about the size of the one at Kennedy
Okay.
High School,
Okay.
along those lines.
So one more. I was concerned about the lighting, but I paid a special attention to the one on Whiskey Road, and that seems to be good, so. But white light out at night could bother the neighbors a lot.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Would you describe how different the entrance sign will be? Because driving down Edgefield, you see the front of the building, you expect the driveway to be close, but you have to go down to almost the park. Will you have an entrance sign there, well lit, or just describe that for us?
Okay, so the monument sign that will be at the entrance of the facility, the actual drive into the facility, is at the intersection with Toole Street and Edgefield. And the reason that we opted to change the entrances to this facility will be that, in the event there is, a lot of traffic in and out of there, which, we don't expect that other than a rental, maybe in the afternoon or evening, then that will allow for lights to not shine into houses that are directly across from the facility. And so we took, the neighborhood into consideration whenever we decided to make that one entrance, since it was already at a cross street, the main entrance or the only entrance for the facility. And basically what that allowed us to do was provide some parking for the park, which there's really not any dedicated safe parking for Eustis Park. Currently, it's on the street. You got to back out into the street. And so, but that parking allows for overflow from the facility, if we needed that space. But also, so the sign itself will have just small little spotlights that will illuminate up on this brick sign that we'll have there.
Other questions from the board to Ms. Lester? Thank you very much. Do we have others to speak to the requests? Final call. Others to speak to the variance requests? Seeing, hearing none, the chair now will entertain a motion so we can enter a period of discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Judy?
I move that we accept, that we approve application 19-93008 for the following considerations. Variance to section 4.4.7.b of the zoning ordinance to permit 2 freestanding signs on property at 841 Edgefield Avenue Northwest. TPN 104-20-24-001 at the northeast corner of the subject property. That the sign comply with all other requirements of Chapter 4, Article 4 of the zoning ordinance regarding signs, with the exception that the electronic reader board shall not be operational between specified hours. That the final order is recorded at the Aiken County RMC office.
Second.
Seconded by Bud.
Should we specify those hours?
That's what I was just going to say.
I think we should
Should we, what now? I'm sorry, what's that?
specify the hours of operation
Oh,
for the
okay.
sign.
Let's see what she said, that the sign would be
9 o'clock.
till 9 o'clock, I assume would be from 8 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock in the afternoon, since 8 o'clock is when, 8 o'clock is when it opens, right? Okay, from 8 o'clock until 9 p.m. would be the hours of operation for the light.
Excuse me, would there be any, and I'll direct it back to Joy. Joy, would there be a need, granted you start operations at 8 o'clock, 8 a.m. Is there any reason to have the sign on, say, starting at 7:30 to announce that there's something going on? When people come in, they know it's going on. Would there be a need to operate it, say, from 7:30 until 9 p.m. that night, or is 8 o'clock sufficient?
I think 7:30 would be good. That would at least give people an opportunity if they wanted to do something that day. It would at least announce things that were going on that, before the center actually opened.
Okay. Would that be,
At 7:30 would be fine, a.m.
do you need to amend the motion then, or do we just need to add that, sir?
It'll be added to the motion without amending.
Okay.
We're still in discussion?
We are now in a period of discussion.
I just have a question. If this were a business, they'd be allowed 2 signs.
Business would not. It's specifically, the 2 signs is across the board for all uses in that zone, or, well, I guess any property, any commercial property that would have a sign would only be allowed
I thought if you were on 2 roads.
2 arterials.
Oh, it
So it
has
has
to
to be
be.
an arterial, right? So, for instance, like if yeah, I'm trying to think of a good intersection. Yeah, if you're at, like, I guess, Richland and University, you're on 2 arterials, for instance, but these would be both less than that level of traffic per the zoning ordinance, and that's why only the single sign. Again, there was another provision that allows 1 per entrance for government, institutional, churches, those sorts of things, but we closed the second entrance as part of the construction of the project.
Do we have any further discussion?
Then that I think this is great, that this is coming there, and for the community around as well as the community as a whole.
Hearing no further discussion, those in favor of the motion show by raise of the right hand. The motion is carried unanimously. I call your attention to application 19-92003. That's a special exception request to allow a kennel part of a cat cafe and property is zoned as downtown business and is located at 116 Pendleton Street Southwest. To the city, has this been properly posted?
It has.
Any additional inquiries that you wish to share with the board?
None other than the two emails received by staff that are included in your packet.
Thank you. Presentation?
So you have before you a special exception request, again, different than a variance request, in that it is generally something that an applicant can address the 11 special exception criteria to the satisfaction of the board to grant a special exception within a zone district for a specific use. The proposed use in this case is a cat cafe, which I will not try to describe in any sort of level of detail. I would leave that up to the applicant, but other than it would have both the kenneling of cats, the applicant has stated up to 20, and then it would have components of a cafe or a coffee shop essentially as part of that as well. And there have been other business models in the state where that has been done to the satisfaction of the Department of Health. So there are specific criteria by the Department of Health that govern it, but with certain separations, limits on food, those sorts of things. That I don't know all the ins and outs of, but that I know has been permitted in other cases in the state. And but the property is at, as you stated, 116 Pendleton Street Southwest. That's essentially one lot south of Richland and Pendleton on the east side of the road, adjacent to a vacant parking lot on one side and a yoga studio in the other side. It's within the downtown business zone district. It is the kenneling of animals that requires the special exception in the downtown business zone district. Our zoning ordinance does not have any specific criteria attached to a kennel. In our Article 3, Section 3, that's where you find kind of special circumstances. For instance, the manure section of the ordinance for equestrian uses, that sort of thing. We don't have any specific established conditions in the zoning ordinance for kennels. I lost my train of thought for a second. All adjacent properties are zoned downtown business, and other than that, I guess, yes, staff would be, I was going to get to the actual kennel definition. So the kennel definition in our ordinance is that any building or premises where 4 or more dogs or cats, at least 8 weeks of age, or other small animals are kept, and for which remuneration is received. And it should not include premises that are used for residential purposes where an occupant is keeping their own personal animals. So personal animals, those fall subject to the nuisance ordinance if you have too many or different issues related to those. But it is the specific kenneling of more than 4 animals, or 4 or more animals rather, that requires a special exception in this case.
I'm having trouble with the word kennel. I read the package, the information in the package, and the number of animals will be there for a while. My question is, in terms of when I think of a kennel, I think in terms of if I own a cat and I wanted to go on a 2 weeks vacation, can I bring my cat by and have them stay there at this facility for the 2 weeks I'm away or not? Is that part of this definition, or am I wrong?
So that would fall under the same definition, but the definition is broader than that. The definition is just, keeping of a certain number of animals on premises where they're essentially stayed there, where they are housed at that location. And so it would apply to some veterinarians who keep, maybe on a rotational basis, but a certain number of animals that are typically there on a lengthy basis. Same thing with like the SPCA, those sorts of uses, where you might have adoption centers, those would fall under that. And like you were kind of saying, the boarding of animals, like animal hotels or kennels, like you spoke of, where it's, yeah, I'm leaving my animal while I'm going on vacation, that sort of thing. Those would all fit under our kennel definition. So it's kind of broader than the term that I guess, yeah, that you would probably kind of you would typically use for temporary boarding of animal for a fee.
Question from the board to the city?
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question. Under the current kenneling definition, so am I to assume currently 4 determines? The only example that comes to mind right now is Bonafide Bakery, where they have cats available for adoption.
Right.
And so they are limited currently to 4?
Correct, yeah, or, yeah, 3 or less, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, it kind of depends on, like, for instance, those, like, I'm not sure, I believe it's actually the same applicant is involved with those animals that you see there as well. So I'm not sure if those stay there all the time either, or whether they kind of go home and come back at certain times and that sort of thing. So this would be more kind of on a permanent basis and a larger number.
Thank you.
Is the applicant the owner of the building?
No, well, I say that, I don't know yet. I know they were looking at the potential. She would be able to answer that better than I could. But at the time it was filed, she was not, but I'm not sure whether she had decided to purchase the property or not.
Would they have legal standing to make such a request if they're just renting the space?
It would be with the permission of the owner.
Okay.
Maybe I wasn't listening close enough, Ryan. What's the maximum number of cats that can be here at one time? Did I hear 10 or?
No,
Did I hear any number at all?
without any, oh, you mean proposed by the applicant? They said as many as 20.
At one time?
Correct. That's the proposed number.
But if they were going to have 4, they wouldn't have to
Right.
be here.
Okay. Okay, I see it here now, yeah. 20 cats.
And I'm not sure they've necessarily thrown that out as a hard and fast number, but more of a conceptual, their idea of kind of what they had in mind for the business. Which would also, I guess, I kind of left that out, would also be an adoption center. So it's essentially both a way for people to interact casually with the animals if they wish to do so, or they would also be available for adoption for permanent housing.
And I guess I can direct it to the applicant. These cats that they're talking about, are they feral cats that have been maybe captured by the city or SPCA?
I would direct
whoever?
that to the applicant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Howard.
I'm assuming that the city will have to work very closely with the health department in terms of the cat cafe.
Right, so granting of a special exception, I guess I should point that as well, does not get them necessarily around the nuisance side of the ordinance. So if it were to be the level of a nuisance where there would not be adequate waste management, care for animals, too great of a density of animals for health reasons, they would be subject to our normal animal nuisance ordinance, which is enforced by public safety.
Do we have further questions from the board to the city? Thank you. The applicant? Would you please identify yourself to the, would you read yourself into the?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm Joanne Burrows, the founder and director of Happy Tales Adoption Program, and I also have with me 2 board members. Is it okay if they come up? Would be a joint venture.
They can read themselves into the minutes, please, if they are going to join you. Yeah.
Hi there. My name is Tanya Cooper, and I'm the secretary on the board.
Desiree?
Hi, I'm Desiree Johnson, and I'm over media and marketing.
Now, you have received a package from the, and do you plan to embellish on this package or just respond to and from questions from the board?
I'll respond to questions.
And would you state your name again?
Joanne Burrows, B-R-O-S-Z,
Thank you.
And your address, please?
518 Richland Avenue West, about 1 block from the proposed location.
Joanne,
Go ahead, Nancy.
you are currently the founder-director of Happy Tales Adoption Program.
That's correct.
Explain that to me. Where is it operating from? Because it says it's been an organization since 2007.
That's correct. I started the program when I was fostering for the SPCA, and I got attached to my fosters, and I wanted to establish my own nonprofit organization so that I could approve adoptions, so that I would know where the kittens that I took care of for all that time, where they go. And so I established the adoption program. And since then, I've taken them from the county. I've had them transferred to me, and which I gave them additional medical care. And then I started off with Super Pets in Mitchell Shopping Center, and I adopted out cats from there. When I get an application, I do a home visit, and I make sure that it's appropriate. My cats are never $9 or anything. They're usually $75 to $125. They're very clean and very particular about their health. And then after that, I went into partnership with PetSmart Charities, and I had 21 volunteers. And at the time that I started there, I forget which county shelter was before me, but they basically had the animals just on newspapers. And I started marketing them with clean blankets, and we took care of them, and we started adopting them out. From there, I went to the Bonafide Bakery, and I started adopting them out from there. But it seems that it's not adequate, the space and the window, it's not adequate for the animals to be full-time. So I ran across the idea of a cat cafe, and that's what we're considering.
So where are the cats right now?
And we have a few in foster care, yeah.
Explain that. I don't own a cat.
It's individuals who agree to foster animals in their homes. So we have a few right now, but it's not like we have 20 cats right now that need a place. We just thought it would be a fun idea. There's an abundance. There's plenty of place to get cats from to have at the Cat Cafe, and the number 20, that's an ambitious number. I don't expect to really have that many. I don't know if I could handle that many and then get along. I want an environment that's really peaceful and calm. I don't want it to be a shelter situation. I want it to be something very relaxing. So I don't know if I could do 20 at a time. I just wanted to put that number high in case, I don't know, if in the future that I would have any chance of going over the limit that we were allowed.
So I think if I can add just a little bit to your question, because you're asking where are the cats currently now. So Joanne just has currently right now just a litter of kittens. Four that she's fostering at her own house right now. And foster programs, I'm not certain if you're familiar with the way the shelters work around here, but they also, when you go to the shelter, they have the animals in at the physical location, but they also have any overage in foster homes. So that way it reduces the numbers for like the kill shelters, for example. So for like this organization, Joanne has been able to find foster parents to help take care of specific cats. And that helps with, maintaining the number, because right now, Joanne doesn't have a facility at this current moment. I mean, we have like 4 kittens in her home. She's giving them medical care. She's looking for adoptions for them. And she also vets out those applicants that come through Happy Tails. And then as far as the number 20 goes, I think Joanne kind of described it to me a little bit better the other day. We are a little nervous because it's a board setting, and it's something about getting behind a podium. It just changes the atmosphere instead of sitting down at a coffee table and a couch and drinking tea. But I would say that Joanne said it best the other day, is that essentially she would like probably on a steady basis, maybe around, let's say, I'm just throwing a number out there, let's say 6 to 8 cats at a time. That would allow you to come in and have a very relaxing environment with the cats that are, fully integrated in to the surrounding and to each other. Now, emergencies happen, and we know that we have tons of animal problems around Aiken County. So sometimes Joanne's gonna get a call, and they're gonna say, we've got a litter of 6 kittens outside of our back of our business or something, or in a trash can. Can you help us? And as a nonprofit organization and as a rescue organization, Joanne's gonna say, I would love to, but we need that additional number in order to have that balance there, in order to have a buffer there. So we would have the set cats, and then that additional number up to
Quarantine.
20 would be those additional cats that we would take on to help recover them, recuperate them, get them integrated in, and hopefully get those other cats that are already previously integrated, adopted out, and have then that rotation of getting healthy cats in, bringing cats in, rescuing them, turning them over to healthy cats, socialized cats, and then into permanent, good established homes. So that number would be a buffer there.
And you have to keep in mind that folks pay $15 per hour to come in to the Cat Cafe, including that as a beverage, coffee or tea. Don't really think I'll apply for a liquor license, but coffee or tea are included. And so a space, 2,300 square feet, could just eat up 6 cats. I mean, people pay $15 to come in, and then they're like, where's the cats? Because, cats sleep here and there, and so you could really, that's why, another reason I put the number high, just to test it and see how many I could fit and how many would be appropriate for the atmosphere.
Well, I could ask you a million questions, and this will be my last one for a little bit, and I'll give other people a chance. But see, I had, just last week, I had this cat-looking dog living underneath my house and making my house stink. And I called Jeff Weathersby with the city, and he came out and he captured it, and I said, what are you going to do? Well, we found out the cat had cancer, and so they euthanized the cat. But then he told me that when they catch a cat, they take them to the vet, they give them the shots or whatever, they put a chip in them, and they make sure they aren't going to reproduce, and then they turn them loose again. They just go and
Those are
turn 'em-
feral cats. That's the trap, neuter, release program. Those
So
cats
that-
are the ones that you can't touch. They're trapping
So
them.
you wouldn't be helping the
I
city
don't.
with those
My friend
people?
feeds them. She goes and she traps them. She's involved in the TNR program, and she feeds them every single day, but it just breaks my heart. I really can't, I don't even go and feed them. It just breaks my heart they're outside. These would be very friendly.
Where
friendly
would you
cats that
get
are
your
just-
cats from then? I'm not following it.
We get you have to really field so many calls of people saying, my mom passed away or my parents passed away and I need someone to take their cat.
Okay.
Those friendly cats, older cats, different people. I move into an apartment and I can't keep my cat. You get those all day long. And other rescue organizations, I'm sure, would be begging me. When I was in partnership with PetSmart, I'd drive to North Augusta and meet people from Kitten Connection in Augusta, and I would take their cats and put them in PetSmart, and I was just adopting them out. And there's always the county, I'm sure FODAs would love for me to transfer into my program if adoptions are really strong. But like I said, I'm pretty picky. I don't just, you can't just fill out an application and get one for $10 with me. It has to be a home visit. I'm really careful. So chances are most of the cats might just live there for a while.
So they're already tamed and taken care of and all
Would
that?
be,
Okay.
yeah.
That's it, I promise, I'm done.
Karen?
Mr. Chairman, Joanne, I just had a question when I was reading through the criteria for the application. The first thing, I'm a cat lover myself. I know how to care for them and manage their waste, which is not a very pleasant subject. Nobody loves a litter box. But in this scenario, for item number 3, the staff response to the size, shape, and character suited for the proposed site, there was a dependency on the related care and waste management. And I think a lot of people who are cat owners or who are not cat owners are curious how that would be managed. I know personally, we tend to scoop the litter box, put it in a plastic bag, and it goes in the trash bin. And as we all know, a week later, when we put the trash out and you put something else in there, it's a little potent. So not to be too
Yeah, you should double
graphic,
bag it, really.
but yeah,
It
I
does
have
help.
done that as well. I actually came up with the idea after having a child of using a diaper genie, which was great in the garage. At any rate, I digress. So number 3 and number 6 sort of addressed my concerns about what, could you outline what your plans would be for litter box maintenance? Would it be shared, knowing that some cats can be territorial, can result in spraying if one doesn't particularly care for, et cetera, et cetera? I'm just curious how you would plan to manage that.
That's what we're going to have to figure out. The only model I have to go by are the other cat cafes that I've visited, and I'm really kind of astounded the way they're all getting along. I guess you vet them by their personalities, and because you certainly don't want cat fights or anything going on when people are paying money to come in to a relaxing environment. So you have to vet them based on their personality. Also, we had talked about the glass partition and a separate, it also has a couple of rooms, office in that. We talked further since we applied about putting a glass door. So if we have a cat that's not getting along with the others, or he's a bully or whatever, he can be in a separate room where people can still visit him, and there's a glass door. We just have to be really careful what cats we take in, because they're in this open environment. There are
Right.
plenty of litter boxes hidden in strategic locations. You can't smell them. When you scoop the litter boxes a couple of times a day, put it into a baggie, into another baggie, tie it up, put it into an outside bin, close the lid, there's not going to be any smell.
Oh, so could I add a little
Yeah.
bit to that? So I think you're asking more as far as like the process behind the litter, how to control the litter. And one of the a couple of things. One, Joanne is expecting to have volunteers, so there will be volunteers there throughout the day to scoop as the day progresses. So that's one thing. Of course, making sure that they are in very secure bags, making sure also that we do have sinks and facilities to wash the litter boxes out. In those facilities, they will not be washed outside, so you will not have a litter residue outside. I know that's sometimes a concern. It will strictly be contained in containers and then disposed appropriately. But the litter is also, as Joanne actually stated to us earlier tonight before coming here, the litter is not going to stay in like a garbage can for a week.
Right.
Because that would create a smell, and it gets 100 degrees outside, and that's not pretty.
Right.
So Joanne's husband actually does a lot of
Landscaping. He
and goes to the trash dump on a regular basis. So we would like to implement a plan where that stuff is going out on a daily basis to the trash dump, and that would be facilitated through us and through our volunteers.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Judy.
Now, how do you intend to make money to support this at, you said $14 or $15 a person coming in? Tell me what to do
The other
what?
cafes, actually, you have to make a reservation. They're so busy. They're so busy that you have to make a reservation.
Charleston,
Sometimes you can take a walk in. I know a lot of people go by Charleston. Of course, you're going to have a lot of people doing it in Charleston, but there's also a lot more things to do in Charleston. So I think it's going to pretty much balance out, that it's going to be pretty busy. Also, there's a specialty coffees that we're thinking of how far we want to go with the coffee shop part of it. You do get a free drip coffee or water, tea as part of the, to get something to drink when you go in. But we can also sell coffee. It's funny that you mentioned the boarding. Another reason that I thought of asking for 20, I thought, what if in one of the rooms that is in this building, we had the kennels, the type of boarding type kennel, that people might, in the future, we might offer the boarding of cats, because a lot of the places that you go, like vets' offices, other places that you go to board your cat, there's a lot of dogs barking and everything, and this would be an environment that's already really nice and peaceful, that cats like soft music, water running, kind of a spa environment, a really peaceful environment. So it might be an option in the future to allow people to board their cats.
Now, are you going to have paid employees in there, or are you having volunteers?
Well, it is a nonprofit organization, and I've been in contact with the college, USC Aiken, and I've gotten calls and emails from like 3 different people with interest. The kids are interested in volunteering. I do hope to have a paid manager in the future, and we'll see how it goes. If, we are a nonprofit, so if we're making good money, enough to pay the rent and enough to pay people, then, we'll do that, but
Are you purchasing the building, or are you renting?
we're debating
Okay.
that. But we have his blessing. I thought he was going to be here today. We have his blessing. He knows exactly what we're planning to do there, and he's on board.
Okay. And where is your trash disposal?
The trash cans now are kind of at the back door, right at the back door. Which I don't really like them there anyway. I mean, even if it were my cat cafe, I wouldn't want the trash cans there, but that's where they are now. It's kind of at the parking lot at the back door.
Okay.
I'm not gonna,
Beside the building or at the back of the
right
building?
beside the building.
Okay, okay.
So I'll get used to it. It's more like people are wondering, how much are you going to litter up this building? I'm wondering like, oh, who puts the trash cans there? So I get it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, since
Go
you
ahead,
haven't asked
Bud.
one.
I haven't asked a question yet. I'm still trying to get a picture of this. Now, you will be serving tea or coffee or whatever, playing music, now in a peaceful environment. Now, will you be serving food?
The food has to be, because of DHEC laws, the food can be purchased. It can be, they can eat it right there with the cats, but it can't be made on the premises. It has to be prepackaged. It can be something that New Moon has made, the cupcakes and muffins. It could be they've made it there, it's packaged, and I can sell it there, and they can eat it there, but it can't be made there.
Okay, so you don't need to have
And I really don't,
an A rating or A rating, B rating, or whatever in the window. So if I came in and sat down at a table and ordered a cupcake that you had and a cup of coffee, would these cats be kind of just wandering around, or are they going to be like at the Bonafide Bakery where they're in the window and you can see them as you go in the window, as you walk in the store and you see them in the window? Just exactly where will these cats be?
yeah, we propose to put a glass partition where the cats are on one side, so that the people who might come with their family, they don't like cats, but their family wants to go in with the cats, they can still sit and have a cup of coffee. That was my first idea, because all the other cat cafes have the coffee snack areas separate from where the cats are. But when I spoke with, I forget her name right away, but with the lady from DHEC that would be in charge of my case, she said it doesn't have to be separate, as long as, she said the cats can be in the same area. They're just lounging around. They're not like dogs that come and want to take your food. They're kind of like,
Okay.
so.
But no feral, all these cats will be healthy, they're not, the feral cats that are in this program that you mentioned of, what do you call it, trap, neuter, release,
No.
TNR. Totally
No,
different concept.
totally different.
They're just running,
Oh,
okay.
it would
Because I
be
have
like
them in my
going to
neighborhood, and
someone's-
I have a problem with them, but anyway.
It would be like people, like if you're going to someone's house that has cats laying around and you just go and sit on sofas and chairs and coffee tables, kids can come and do their homework, or college kids might want to hang out there, and the cats are just lounging around and they can pet them. The cats like attention, not the ones that are afraid of people.
Okay.
Nancy?
If this were approved, would you have a problem with the approval saying that it was conditional on the cat waste being removed every single day from the property?
I don't think that, well, I don't know. I don't think that's really, I don't see where it's that big of a problem, but I don't think it's fair to say I have to take something that's double bagged and put into an outside waste bin off every single day when you walk down behind a restaurant and you can smell the beer and their trash cans from, say, behind a bar or restaurant. I mean, as you walk down the alley and look at the back of the brewery, it's like, oh, so.
So you would have a problem with that?
I don't know, I would have to decide on what you say.
Yeah. Rose, Ms. Cooper, and Ms. Johnson, I have to be kind of honest. You're catching us cold. And we don't know how to vote. You mentioned in the it was mentioned in the package that there are a number of cities in South Carolina that have experienced or are experiencing the operations of a cat cafe. My question is, do you have any videos? We need to be educated because we're in new territory here. You're talking about a concept where someone is going to come in and pay $15 an hour. To do what?
Yeah.
And for $15 an hour, is that just to stroke a cat? Or what about the therapy side of it? Do you apply this therapy with me while I drink my cup of coffee? Just how does this whole thing work? What I'm suggesting is that we need some type of presentation. Do you need more time to develop this so you can sell us? Because right now, I don't know how to vote. And when I don't know how to vote, you tend to vote no.
We would appreciate that,
We
yes, sir.
would highly appreciate more time to
Absolutely.
gather a presentation for you. We can give you examples of how other cat cafes have worked and the type of positive impacts it's had on the community and also the animal welfare in that community as well.
We would appreciate that because I think we can be here to and from questionings and trying to educate. And I see the board struggling.
I see y'all trying to imagine in your mind.
We're trying to imagine, how does this
Okay.
operation work? And we need to see something and see where it has been successful.
People just go and hang out with
Need the
cats.
city to talk
There are
to
people who
those cities
can't.
and see what problems they have had.
There are
and-
people who can't have cats because somebody in the family is allergic. They like to go someplace where they can hang out with them.
And that's
Fine.
something that we can put in our
Yeah. Certainly.
presentation.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
What
and
other-
as far as the waste question, we can also address that concern as well in our presentation. And we can also find out how other cat cafes are handling that situation and how their cities are dealing with it, and we can present that to you as well.
I think it would be beneficial too for the surrounding, not only for the board, but for surrounding businesses and people coming downtown, just if there was some sort of like this is the litter we're using because it's proven that it's odorless, or this is the waste system that we're putting in place. I think it's great that it could be carted off every day, and one of the concerns with volunteers is their heart's in the right place, but if they're not necessarily cat savvy and they forget 1 day or 2 days or 4 days to double bag,
Correct.
there's a little margin for human error, and it's not that they're being malicious to the surrounding businesses, but I think we have to sort of be proactive about, and it's strange, walking down the street and smelling sour garbage, I don't think triggers quite the same response as fecal matter, which is strange because they both stink, but there's something mentally, for the surrounding businesses or whoever's backing onto the trash cans, and it would be nice if in the city as a whole, the trash cans were not close by. But it would be nice, I know, for me to see what is your implementation plan for waste management? Because just going through the criteria, a lot of them, for me, again, I was like, okay, that's okay, but then when we got into the waste management, that triggered 3 places where it was a little, staff response was how that's going to be handled. And that's the only thing I didn't really see in the presentation, was how specifically that was going to be handled.
That's why I asked if you would have a problem with removing it on a daily basis. Are you
I
aware?
just don't want to promise that, and then, I don't want to promise that, and then if 1 day goes by that it didn't get taken, then I'm in violation of what you approved. That's
Are
the
you
only-
aware of a cat cafe within a reasonable driving distance of Aiken
I've
that
been
I
to the
could
one
go?
in Columbia.
There's-
Yeah,
where is-
Catatoup, but I wanted something a lot nicer than it, but it's in Columbia. I would say Pounce Cafe in Charleston is more along the lines of
Catitude in Columbia? Where is it located?
Senate Street, I think it is.
I think
You guys-
in your materials, you referenced State Street.
State Street, yeah. Close.
The one in Charleston is Pounce.
On
Is that
Meeting Street,
on where?
on Meeting Street.
Meeting?
Right
Would
in the
that be
middle of
would that
downtown.
be your example of the
could be.
best way to handle or to model your cat cafe by?
So, yeah, I think that would be a good example.
Well, the other thing in this litter issue, we in the equine committee, the equine committee and all labored long and hard on how to handle equine waste. All right, now I know this is, cats aren't equines, I got it. But they still generate a waste. The city has an ordinance on how equine waste is handled inside the city, okay? So I'm not saying that we would model an ordinance by that. I'm just saying that this can raise, it has raised questions with us, but also we have to address it and keep in mind your neighbors. Where this business is right downtown. Now, Bonafide Bakery is one thing, but this is something new, it's right downtown, and so I think it needs to be addressed very carefully. And so you have, I say you have some more homework to do to convince, at least convince me that, yes, it's the right thing to do at that location.
John?
I have a question. How does the Albrecht Center manage the waste, and how many cats do they have, and how is that situation managed?
I don't know, but I can say Bonafide Bakery, since you brought it up, I had cats in there for 2 years. I scooped their litter every single day and took the litter off with me. I didn't even know there was an ordinance that you could only have 4. We've had 8 to 10 cats in those windows, in those small windows, for years. Scooping, taking litter off. You see how nice and clean it always looks, so I don't.
You don't have any idea how the Albrecht Center manages those cats? I've been in there with all those cats. I don't know, there's scores of them, and I don't remember any noticeable stench of any kind, and it seems like if they can manage it, perhaps, it's something you can do.
There's no doubt I can manage it. I know I can.
Now, are there any other than in Columbia and Charleston, is there any anything approaching this concept in Aiken?
No, not in Aiken.
Because I walk by the modified break on Lawrence Street, right, almost daily, and I stop and look at the cats, and I don't seem to
You've seen me
see
in
any
there
detrimental
every-
effect or any negative situation
I only
there.
wanted to create that bigger and better, because that little window for them is just, it's not ideal, so I was
So the
thinking of
idea
something
here
better.
is people want to maybe adopt a cat, they can come in, have a cup of coffee and watch their potential cat walk around, maybe
Just
come
like
to
people are
them.
coming into Bonafide Bakery for the last 2 years, cramming into that little window to pet all my cats. I was thinking of a bigger, better thing when I saw this idea.
And like she said, I mean, have some lounging area to sit down.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question of the city, Mr. Chairman. When it says the final order is to run with the land,
Yeah, so that was I was gonna bring that up once you got to the discussion point, that there was a typo there that staff would recommend that it run with the applicant in this case. That was just left in there from some standard boilerplate language.
How much time do you think you will need? No, we meet monthly, so.
Okay, that's about my next, how
Yeah.
soon?
So we're talking about 1 or 2 months?
Yeah, no, we wouldn't need that much time just to,
We'll let
what,
you
to
work with
get
the
them
city
the
to.
video, to show them what a cat cafe is. Like, I could get my phone right now and show you.
No, we want to.
No, we do not set the planning department's calendar.
Okay.
We'll have you work with them to set the calendar
Okay.
when it will be time to get back on the agenda.
Okay, very good.
So you would meet this same date next month, just for your information. It'd be also the 26th.
Okay. That would be my recommendation, that we have a continuance of this.
And we keep a record of these proceedings, and please understand that we would like to have lots of questions generated. So please address those questions, I'm not just show us a movie of what a cat cafe looks like, but these other issues that have been brought up, especially with the litter issue.
Have you talked to the surrounding businesses, like in the back?
Yeah, I mean, like,
Yoga?
well, I know that the lady who owns the Holly Building, I'm glad that she brought that up when she sent the letter saying, I own all this around, so that, that cleared that up, that there's no place really for a trash can. I think the man who owns the parking lot is allowing them to have their trash cans there as it is, but I just thought we're taking it off, it wouldn't be an issue to need a dumpster. The Aiken Yoga and the other businesses around are like, when she texts me on the way here, what did they say? Are you coming? They want us. So bad Channel 12 News contacted us today. Can we interview? We're like, we don't know yet. And the newspaper's like, can we follow this story? We're like, we don't know yet, so.
Well, like the Aiken Drug?
Yeah, he was concerned with the noise. I think he misunderstood Kennel to think dogs would be coming in and out a lot, but really once the cats are there, they wouldn't be coming and going too much. If one got adopted, then of course the person would take them out in a carrier, which would be about the size of a large handbag. So, and the cats don't make the noise, I don't know.
You're not going to hear meowing at midnight.
No, or any noise. I can't see any noise related to bringing the cats in or taking them out, but I think the word kennel might have made him think there was a lot of noise and stuff involved, I don't know.
I want to thank you for your
Thank you.
presentation, and at this point, I think the chair is going to call for a motion.
Okay. Mr. Chairman,
Judy?
I move that we continue application 1992-003 until the March meeting, so that we can have more information.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
Mr. Chairman, I had a question for the city, but I don't know if it's relevant to the motion being made in regards to one of the items in here. So I didn't know if I should,
I'm going to ask that we all follow our questions to the planning department so that they can feed it back to the applicant so that they can make sure that it's covered during their presentation to us at the next meeting.
okay.
Yeah. Was it you, Nancy, that second the motion?
Yes, I did.
Yes. It's been properly moved and second. Do we have any discussion?
I think we can all Google Cat Cafe and do our homework as well.
Good. Google Cat
That's my
Cafe.
point of discussion.
Got you. Any other discussion? Those in favor of the motion show by raising the right hand. The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Be sure to follow your questions, the board, to the planning department so that they can incorporate it. Thank you. Application 19-92004. We have a special exception request to operate a community service, which is an after-school program on property that's zoned residential single families and is located at 1185 Alderman Street Northeast. To the city, has this been properly posted?
It has.
Any inquiries that you wish to share with the board?
No inquiries to share.
Presentation.
So, Mr. Chairman, you have yourself an application here, again, for a special exception in a single-family zoned district. It is a home that would be utilized for after-school programs by Aiken Agape Christ Central Ministries. You have a pamphlet that they have used here to describe the program, as well as some information in a form of a letter and response to your 11 criteria that you would utilize for this. A couple of things that staff would explain. Staff, in the staff memorandum, explain the proximity to the school, but if you haven't been in Crosland Park in this section in recent years, it may seem that you would have to walk a fair distance to get there. There have been improvements made, and I've added an additional map here in front of you on your screens and on the big screen here, that there are two pedestrian connections that were made in recent years using the Safe Routes to Schools program, where they were formerly house sites. Now I would call it parklets. Kind of has like a trellis gazebo type area and some some planned connections that go from the school site onto Croft and Aldridge Street. So if you're kind of wondering the nexus there, I thought that kind of better explained one reason I think the applicant felt that this may be a suitable location for those sorts of programs. They have the information here in front of you. Now they are a faith-based organization. They have described it as after-school programs, so they kind of check several boxes in our zone district matrix, but each of those uses that they could be classified as would all need a special exception from the board to operate there anyway, so that's why staff went with the description as a community service, but it could have been a number of other things such as a religious or institutional use, and it would be essentially in the same situation where they would be addressing the 11 criteria.
Questions from the board to the city? Why is a variance required?
Sorry, special exception. It would be a special exception, not a variance.
Thank you.
Mr. Bland, is this building currently, I mean, this house currently occupied by people, or is it vacant?
I believe it was vacant, and it had been utilized some for the activity when when staff responded, we essentially responded to the banner that was placed on the property, kind of advertising the program, and so that's how this came about. They were informed that they were required to get a special exception for those activities.
I have questions.
Karen?
Just to clarify again, the final order would run with the land again?
That would be up to, it could either run with the applicant or run with the land. It would be up to the board's discretion in that case.
Any further questions to the city? Thank you. The applicant?
Good evening,
Good evening.
ma'am. Good evening. My name is Lula Linda Plameres, and I'm the founder of Aiken Agape.
Will you state your address, please?
Yes, sir, 1185 Alderman Street,
Thank you.
Northeast Aiken, South Carolina.
Ms. Palomares, you received a copy of the staff report. Do you wish to embellish that report or just respond to and from questions from the board?
Just respond, sir, from the question.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I had a question. In regards to the character and purpose in number 2, where you stated that you are not a commercial in nature, I understand it is nonprofit. So where does your financial support come from? Are there fees somehow charged? Is it state supported? How does that work?
Thank you for that question. I started initially with my own personal resources, and I bought this house, and I made this for ministry, and I have some friends and board of advisors who kind of contribute some, but initially, and right now we don't have any source of income. It's just we're operating by faith. And actually right now I have my board of advisors with me, and if you have further questions, that they may be able to answer as well.
So any expenses as far as the electricity and water to the premises you're paying for?
Yes, ma'am, that was initially, but right now, because we're under Christ Central Ministries and we're 501c3, and if I may, I have received an amount of $10,000, from my hospital, because I'm a nurse by profession. I'm an ICU nurse, and because of this Aiken Agape, I have campaigned in our hospital, at Doctor's Hospital in Augusta, about the Socks and Shoes Ministries back in 2016, because I befriended the neighborhood, and I have told them the story about the children. So I didn't know that they have nominated me as, one of the nomination for that awardee. So I was fortunately and blessed, to have that, award by the HCA. So the money, I put $5,000 in our account, and that's where, some of our, facilities and utilities bills come from.
Thank you.
Did you say you've applied for the 501(c) or you have it already?
We have it already, sir.
You have it already.
I started to become the nonprofit organization recently, and have the 501c3 under the Christ Central Ministries Incorporated in October of 2018. So we're under Christ Central Ministries Incorporated, and we called Christ Central Ministries Incorporated Aiken Agape.
Okay.
Judy.
Now, do you currently reside?
No, ma'am. This is my second house.
Okay.
I bought this solely for the ministry. I have my own house. I stayed in my other house.
Okay.
And we just operate in this house every Tuesday, since I'm a nurse and I'm a very busy person. And so we just operate 3 hours every week. And then if we have like board meetings, if we have like prayer retreats and things like that, we do at Aiken Agape.
But you do want this to be Monday through Friday?
Probably I'm praying in the future, but right now what we're operating is just for Tuesdays from 3 o'clock to 6:30 in the evening currently. But we hope that, one day, through the grace of God, that we will be, kind of expanding a little bit.
And you have other volunteers who come on Tuesdays to help you with the
Correct.
tutoring and so forth?
Yes, ma'am, correct. Actually, we have the listed volunteers about like 20. But, we have board of advisors who come and some do not come, but they just come for the meeting and for the leadership thing. But usually we have like regular, maybe 6 to 8 volunteers who will come and help with the children, because our operation is for varied ages. It's not just for specific age or ages. So we have, several volunteers who come, and they're not being paid. They're volunteers, and they're very committed.
Is this for just the Crosland Park area?
We open it primarily for Crossland Park area, but we welcome others, who, wanted to be a part, of the activity, part of the ministries. And I don't know if I may have my board of advisors in here that may be able to answer as well, if it's okay. Is that okay?
We'll have to have them read themselves into the minutes, please, yeah.
Yes, May I call for my volunteers? They have specific committees, and Sir Variant have 5. We're maybe 10, 12 advisors, but these are a few that are here right now. Can you just...
I'm Pastor William Jefferson. You want my personal address?
Yes.
116 Arbor Court, Aiken.
I'm Gary Yount. I'm president of the Crosland Park Neighborhood Association, and I reside at 1162 Alderman Street.
I'm Marilyn Wynn. I am the secretary of the Board of Advisors and a weekly volunteer. I work with the children. I live at 1671 Huckleberry Drive.
I'm Pastor Romualdo Liz, one of the Board of Advisors. I live in 206 Equinox Loop.
Thank you. Questions from the board to the board?
Sir,
Bud?
one question, sir. Mr. Yount is,
Yes, sir.
but are you president of the homeowners association?
Of the neighborhood association.
Of the neighborhood,
Yes, sir.
okay, neighborhood association. Does that association encompass the entire Crosland Park area, or just?
It does.
And how do you, what are your members, or members of your association? I assume they're residents like you are. How do they feel about this organization?
I can only speak for our board, the officers and the members at large of the neighborhood association. We're happy with this. We think it would benefit Crosland Park. And like I say, I can't speak for the entire neighborhood, but I can speak for the 10 of us who represent the association.
Well, have you had any complaints from your neighborhood?
In reference to this?
Right, okay, that's what we need. Okay, thank you.
What is the potential volume? What would, you said you would be operating 2 days a week? Did I understand? 1 day a week. If this is granted, is there a chance that it would expand? And to how much would that expand to, possibly?
Thank you, sir. We are actually praying that this would not be just on a Tuesday. If possible, and God grant or willing, we would like to have, like separate days, because we would like to also operate like the reading class, the writing class, just for the benefit, of the children. Because I have noticed that the children and the teenagers who come to the Agape House, I would not say like not able to read, but really, really hard, when it comes to reading. So we are actually seeking for volunteers to help us, teaching them. We have a board of advisor who's also assigned in the education, that's in a mentoring. He's a teacher in the GED at Graniteville, Christ Central, and actually he is starting to mentor one student, and actually he was able to help this teen-age boys to find a job, because he mentored from really encouraging until going to the job site and meeting the manager until one of the Perrys from the neighborhood, because we have a mother with 7 siblings, or 7 sons and a daughter, and they come to the house. And so one of the Perrys, this is the one that was, right now is working at McDonald's because of the help of one of our mentors.
Getting back to the original question.
Sure, okay.
Why did you choose only one day? Let me ask it that way.
That is because, sir, I'm a nurse and I'm very busy. And if I would have, volunteers who are willing to do it on, some other days, we will. But, for the meantime, I want to be.
Okay, and who would be coming here?
We have several volunteers who come on a Tuesday.
Okay, but the students or who would be using this service?
It's going to be, we have children. Maybe I would ask Sister Marilyn, because Sister Marilyn is focused on the children.
We have, actually, it's family. We have the ladies in the neighborhood, single moms, will sometimes come with their children. So we have adults, we have teenagers, boys and girls, and we have children. I mean, since children come, we've got like a 1-year-old to through, well, high school. And the goal is to provide a safe environment for these children and to build relationships. This is a long-term project. You have to be consistent, and you have to gain their trust. And we can see that happening. I mean, we were there before we came to this meeting. It's hard to get them to go home. They were really disappointed that we weren't having a full-fledged program today. But we have different programs for the children. We've had Bible studies. We've had, well, in fact, recently, the lady from Clemson Extension Service has offered a nutrition program for the children, which was very well received. And we also had another lady from Clemson Extension provide a nutrition program for the adults. 2 of our ladies were followed through with their program. They actually completed it, got a certificate and a cookbook, and last week they cooked the meal for the children, which to us was a huge success story. They were so thrilled and excited to be valuable and encouraged. And that's what we really try to do, is show these children that they have value and try to just encourage them to become the best they can be.
So this is on for 1 day a week between the hours of, you mentioned, what?
3 to 6:30.
3 to 6:30, you're accomplishing all that in that time. But the sky's the limit, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
How many people are you working with right now? Kids and adults or whatever, usually on a Tuesday?
20 probably,
Like 20.
about 20,
You have a maximum?
no.
So if, let's say, 100 people showed up?
Well, we'd be surprised. If 100
Pleasantly.
people showed up, we'd have to do a lot of juggling, wouldn't we?
Mr. Chairman, I just had to ask about that. So taking that into account with the variance of people or numbers, what do you typically see as far as vehicular impact or pedestrian impact? Are these are they being dropped off? If there's 4 staff in place or there are 4 cars, I see, and again, in number 3 regarding, there's sufficient space, but obviously for 2 to 4 cars. So could that vary on a certain Tuesday depending on the programs, or there could be 10 cars, or not including staff's vehicles, but perhaps the participants or the,
Participants walk.
they all walk?
Or Lil has picked up 2 of the children, but they walk. It's right in the neighborhood.
So the vehicle kind of impact is really just staff that are coming and maybe don't live in the area? Okay.
And we haven't had any problems with parking in front of a neighbor's home. In fact, next door to us is a vacant house.
With the number of, Mr. Chairman, with the number of young people that you're now serving, and I hear ages from 1.
Well, she comes with a sister, yes.
Oh, okay, let's say that there's 2 there, but then you serve from that age all the way to high school, did I understand that right? And so, I don't know this, maybe it's in here, but I don't know the square footage of this house, but it seems to me with that many people, is there, you having that many people in there, has public safety rendered an opinion on this, on the number of people you can have in this house at one time, if you're going to have this program, and people cooking and so forth, from a safety perspective?
Most of the food is prepared in a volunteer's home and brought in.
Okay.
Last week was an exception in that the 2 ladies cooked there. But we divide the program up into different rooms, and it seems to work.
Currently
Yeah.
it seems to
Right,
work.
it works.
Okay.
I mean, if we got an overflow, I mean, if the program expanded tremendously, we would have to have more volunteers and go to separate days, and so far that hasn't happened, but we are praying that it does.
Okay.
What has DHEC's involvement been with this so far?
I have not heard anything from DHEC.
So the parents stay with the children?
The children that we have, the parents do not stay with the children. But, we made sure that there's like 18 years old and the volunteers should stay with, the children.
Because, Mr. Bland, I know this isn't a child care center, but in a way, it sort of is.
Which would also be allowed by special exception. So it's not one of those things that it was, there's a number of different,
But they'd have to apply through DHEC.
if it were,
When you have
to
over
meet
6.
DHEC's requirement of a daycare, it would have to go through DHEC.
These children, we have permission slips signed for the children to attend.
I just thought that if more than 6 children attended, that they had to go through DHEC.
No.
Yeah.
The 1-year-old child I was talking about came with an older sister. This was not a child that just wandered in or was dropped.
And it is not regular, once in a while. It's not the regular one that comes, and they're already like 5 years old.
Most of them are
Yeah.
teenage and above.
So it's not in a regular.
But the period of time that you'll be in operation for one day, from 3:30 to 6, you'll be doing reading programs, reading program, and what other type of program? I hear cooking, possible cooking, or maybe doing cookies or something like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I hear reading and teaching remedial reading, or just helping.
We do Bible study, we play games, we do fun things. I mean, we have decorated cookies that I've baked, but they
Okay.
weren't baked there.
Okay.
One of the things we do, I work with the teenagers, and basically it's really training insofar as character, and a lot of them, they come in and they basically have been out doing a number of things that they probably shouldn't do, and it's not a good environment in Crossing Park at all, and they come there, and these guys are really the kind of guys that really get into trouble, but they come there to get out, stay out of trouble. They come there just to sit down and talk, and we talk about what are you doing with your life? What are you going to do insofar as what's your 1 week plan, your 6 month plan? And basically it's just about turning their lives around. And they say they come there because they feel safe there, and there's a difference. And they want to get away from them. They've changed so much since they originally came, with the pants hanging down and and smelling of marijuana or whatever. These are the things that are being changed in their lives, and as it was said, they're even getting jobs. We're seeing things happen that are really mind-boggling from the way they first came in. It was so noisy when they first started coming. Now they come in and they give respect, and we're teaching them respect for their parents.
So yours is more a mentoring program?
Exactly.
Right, okay. And yours is a tutoring? Yeah, okay. Sounds good.
What's Roger Rollins' involvement in this?
Roger Rollins is our board of chairman within our boards. And he's very active, and every board meeting is always there, and he's actively participating.
Roger Rollins, we're on the same board at FAMCO, Family and Marriage Coalition, and he brings a lot of information insofar as even advice, insofar as just the basic things about what we need to be doing insofar as gearing them towards a better and more stability future and outlook towards their future lives. So he doesn't actively have a lot to do with the children, but he does a lot with us. Yeah.
Leadership.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have others to speak to the special exception request? Final call, others to speak to the special exception request? Seeing, hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion so we can enter a period of discussion.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept application number 19-92004 with the following conditions. That approval is granted to Aiken Agape, excuse me, to provide after-school programs at 1185 Alderman Street Northeast, TPN 120-12-04-004. Approval of this special exception shall run with Aiken Agape. The final order is to be recorded at the Aiken County RMC office.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Nancy, second. It's been properly moved and second that we approve the special exception request. Do we have any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I think that this would be a wonderful addition to Crossing Park from the conditions there. Sometimes things don't seem to run so well, and if we've got somebody that's willing to do some tutoring and some mentoring and everything, I think it can only be a positive outcome.
Chairman? I agree. I think it's an excellent program, and I love everything that they're offering to the community. My only concern as far as the area, I see them being so successful that there's a chance they're sort of going to outgrow the space, especially if they implement more days, more hours. I think that's really going to impact the community in such a way that if it is up to the board's discretion to have the final order run with the land, I almost feel like it might just be applicable, should they outgrow the space, that then the home that is owned could then go back to either to a residence, or, you know, have some flexibility there so that the conditions might be it runs with their occupation perhaps of the property. And if they outgrow it and move on to a larger space, which I could see that happening, perhaps we could specify that.
But I think when it says that it shall run with Aiken Agape, that kind of takes, I didn't want it to run with the land necessarily, but run with that organization.
And just to clarify is that with the nature of a special exception, it does have to be tied to a specific parcel of land. So if they were to move somewhere else, for instance, in Crosland Park that had a larger square footage, things like that, it would have to come back through to the board, as it would be treated as a different site. And that goes back kind of to the special exception laws and those ways that were set up in the state code.
So then would that permit, could it revert back to a residential?
Yeah, so this doesn't exclude it from being a residential use necessarily in the future.
Okay.
That's right. If once the Aiken Agape were to vacate or discontinue the use, it could be used residentially.
So it applies to this tax parcel. Say they decided it's gotten so successful, they need to get the house that's unoccupied next to them. Will they have to come back to the board?
They would have to come through and amend the special exception, essentially.
And go through a hearing just like they're doing now?
That's correct.
Okay.
Do we have any further discussion?
This program sort of reminds me of like a Boys and
Boys and
Girls
Girls,
Club.
Brothers
And
and sisters.
I used to work at Aiken Middle, which those would be a lot of the children that used to cut through, you know, from Aiken Middle to Crosland Park. And I just know of one student in particular that's now a teacher because of what the Boys and Girls Club did for this young man and encouraging him. And I think this is a great program, and I hope that they're successful with it.
Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion show by raise of the right hand. Those opposed, same sign. The motion is carried 5-1. That ends the item on the agenda. The chair will now entertain a motion for adjournment.
I so move.
Second.
We stand adjourned. It's a non-voting motion.